You're saying we're prioritising the rights of British people and not the rights of an asylum-claiming prime-age man who is gay. They would go back to Iran or Afghanistan.
We need to stand up for them. We need to stand up for them.
To British women.
Potential terrorist attack foiled by our security services. 4 men from Iran who turned up on a boat. Our priority.
This is why some people feel they cannot trust the mainstream liberal establishment to keep them safe, because they believe it is more focused on appearing morally right by defending minority and oppressed groups than on protecting British citizens from real threats and harm. This exchange between Susanna Reid, Ed Balls, and Zia Yusuf is often pointed to as an example, where he strongly challenges their arguments. Let's watch.
Women. Because, I was asked recently, I appreciate you didn't use this phrase, why would you send people back to, quote, woman-hating Afghanistan? Why are so many men from, quote, woman-hating Afghanistan being allowed to turn up on our beaches uninvited?
My question was about the women.
Well, our priority, and we make no apologies for this, is British people, British girls and British women.
Do you think
we need to stand up for them. We need to stand up for them.
To British women?
Well, again, the reason we are so focused on ensuring that this gets done is because the vast majority of the people illegally in this country from Afghanistan, I've seen these numbers, are men. In fact,
so are you only going to target the men and not target the women?
Well, deportation command would be foolish, Susanna, for deportation command to start when we've got probably north of 1 million illegal migrants in this country, at least, to start focusing on women and girls. The best estimates, but the total population of women and girls from Afghanistan in this country at sub 2,000. We're talking about 0.2% of the total population. We will start with the men. We will start with the fighting age men. They are the ones, by the way, who people watching this programme are most worried about.
Maybe she should read about what happened to Emily Jones, the 7-year-old girl who was tragically killed by, as reported, a female asylum seeker. Someone who entered the UK hidden in the back of a lorry. We will talk more about this later because it is deeply disturbing. And to further show how ideology can shape perspectives, let's look at how Ed Balls debates with Zia Yusuf, presenting himself as a defender of the LGBTQ community.
You've allocated £2 billion to pay countries to take returns. You've said, Nigel Farage said last week, that that would include countries like Afghanistan, Iran. You've said it wouldn't be women and children. If you are a gay man who's come to Britain to claim asylum from Iran or Afghanistan, of fighting age, a gay man, would you return a gay man to Iran?
Our priority will be the British people. I want to keep saying that. I want to say.
So the answer is you would return a gay man, because in Iran, being gay is not only illegal, but it is punishable. With flogging through to the death penalty. But you're saying you would return a gay man to Iran?
Why does it appear to be that we're OK with the vast majority of the people coming from Iran are fighting age men as well? In fact, some of them, very well-sourced stories suggest had a potential terrorist attack foiled by our security services. 4 men from Iran who turned up on a boat. Our priority, and Nigel's priority when he's Prime Minister, will be the British people.
I understand
we make
that, but
no
the nature of being in
that.
government is, because you referred to him as Prime Minister Nigel Farage, if you're in government, you have to be able to answer the difficult questions. That's what government ministers do. That's what you need to do as well. You would return a fighting-age gay man to Iran or Afghanistan. I think, that is a perfectly legitimate thing to say, because you're saying we're prioritising the rights of British people and not the rights of an asylum-claiming prime-age man who is gay. They would go back to Iran or Afghanistan. I think the answer is the answer is yes.
Well, what I'm saying today is we make no apology for saying that this issue needs to be sorted out and we're going to prioritise British people.
But you would return gay men.
But let me also be clear about something. You're asking me about Afghanistan.
Well,
we came out and talked about Afghanistan, and the Home Secretary then came out the very next day and said they would consider doing a deal with Afghanistan. Right. You look at Iraq.
Of course.
And by the way, Germany is already returning illegal migrants to Afghanistan, albeit via Qatar as an intermediary. And this Labour government has done a return agreement with Iraq. And I would put it to you, Ed, that gay people don't have a particularly nice time in Iraq either. Look, the world is unfortunately, as Nigel has already said, he cannot be held, if the British people see fit to vote him in as Prime Minister, he cannot be held accountable for the actions of every despotic regime. We will, of course, not deliberately send anyone back to get tortured or harmed in any way. But we make no apologies. We have north of 1 million people in this country illegally. That number is growing. The pace of people arriving is accelerating. We cannot afford it. It's totally unfair on the people.
Somebody needs to show Ed Balls a map. Because if you are saying that this gay man from Iran would travel through all of these countries and then right at the border of France, which is already considered a safe country. He must enter the UK illegally. It raises serious questions. If the claim is genuine, why would there be no willingness to follow legal and safe routes? And why should a country be expected to take in people arriving from France through illegal means simply because they claim to belong to an oppressed group? It should be straightforward. The British public clearly does not want anyone to suffer harm. What people want is for those seeking refuge to follow the law and do so in a fair and proper way. At the same time, there is a growing belief that some individuals take advantage of the system and the compassion of people like Ed Balls and Susanna Reid. There are also cases that people find deeply disturbing. One example often mentioned is the tragic death of a 7-year-old girl, where the attacker had previously entered the UK hidden in a lorry. Reports suggest the attack happened randomly while the child was out in public, which makes the situation even more shocking. What makes it more concerning to critics is that the attacker had reportedly admitted to giving false information during the asylum process, but was still allowed to remain in the country. Years later, this led to a devastating outcome. Incidents like this fuel arguments that stronger systems and stricter enforcement are needed. Some critics argue that discussions around these issues are often shaped by identity politics, where people are judged primarily based on group identity rather than actions. They believe this can lead to uneven standards, where certain cases receive more attention than others depending on who is involved. The core argument being made is that justice and fairness should apply equally to everyone. Laws should be followed by all, regardless of background, and public safety should remain the priority. Critics say that focusing too much on appearing morally right, rather than addressing real concerns, can weaken trust and lead to growing frustration among the public.